Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Saints-Rams, Sunday in the Dome. Who dats have won 2 in a row under Darren Rizzi, now coming off the bye. Rizzi said when he met with reporters on Tuesday, he was asked kind of about the morale of the team. And look, there's no doubt. I mean, a 7-game losing streak, then you win 2 in a row, you go to your bye, and even treated this week with Thanksgiving as a modified week to give the guys off on Thursday, which never happened, so they can go be with their family on Thanksgiving. Yeah, the team is in pretty good spirits right now.
Yeah, I would say the morale's been boosted. I don't really know quite how to put my finger on the exact reason. I think it's multiple things. Winning certainly cures a whole lot of that. When you're playing well, morale's usually higher. I think that's been in just this few short weeks that I've taken over. That's been the thing that's been probably the most pleasant thing to me, is coming to work every day and seeing the guys in the locker room and seeing the emotion at practice and seeing the guys on the sideline. And so yeah, I mean, I think we've certainly had a morale boost. I think Derek Carr's played some of his best football these last couple of weeks. It's a credit to him and the credit to the offensive staff and all the players around him. I think our enthusiasm, energy, I think all that's been better, so that always lifts morale. And then, like I said, when you win games, it certainly helps.
Yes, morale is boosted. They've won 2 in a row. You look up big picture, you're 4-7, and with 6 games to play, you're really 3 back because of the tiebreaker against Atlanta. You need a lot of help to get back into the mix to go to the playoffs, but you got to get hot here down the stretch. It's interesting looking at this matchup in particular because the Rams are one of the worst rush defenses in the NFL. 4th from the bottom. We just saw Sunday Night Football where Saquon went into L.A. and ran for 250 against the Rams. There's no Aaron Donald. Braden Fisk is. I remember Braden Fisk from Florida State. He was their second-round pick this year, and he's played pretty well. Jared Verse, also from Florida State, there as well, part of that defensive front for the Rams, pretty active front. But the thing that really worries me for New Orleans is the injuries on the offensive line. I would probably feel very differently about this game if you told me Eric McCoy and Lucas Patrick were healthy and ready to go. But as we sit here on Wednesday, McCoy and Patrick have not practiced, and I don't know that looks great for either of them to play on Sunday against the Rams. As the week goes along, we'll see maybe that changes. But even if they do, how healthy will they be? I don't know. And I just have a recent historical context to look at to say, man, Saints offense was awesome the first 2 weeks, albeit Carolina and Dallas. We now know 2 of the worst teams in the league. But you played Philly, and on the 3rd offensive snap, McCoy went down, and your offense face planted after that. So, yeah, it's massively significant. You don't have Connor McGovern anymore, who started during that stretch with McCoy out. Kind of steadied you at least in the middle. And if Lucas Patrick isn't there, that means Shane Lemieux very likely plays center, and Nick Saldiveri plays left guard. Well, I don't like an interior offensive line that's Shane Lemieux, Nick Saldiveri, and Cesar Ruiz. I think the Saints have done a really remarkable job just getting the whole mood, vibe, and results on the field turned around under Darren Rizzi. But if you can't run the ball, then you can't set up play action in this Saints offense. And I think that's where we've seen some of the plays makeable there with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I also don't have any context with what the Saints are going to be like coming off a bye under Darren Rizzi. For a long time under Sean Payton, they were fantastic at that. Remember, Payton kind of modeled it after Andy Reid, giving his guys to just go away. Just leave the building for the bye. Just leave. Don't come at all. And they were great coming off the bye. I don't know what it's going to be like with the extra week for a Darren Rizzi coach team, and then a holiday as well. We'll see. I do like the fact that the Rams have to travel across country. I think it's always a disadvantage for teams that have to travel that far. One of the reasons I like Atlanta this week to beat the Chargers. The Chargers played on Monday Night Football and now have to travel across the country to Atlanta. I think Atlanta beats the Chargers outright at home. But this is one of those, though, where I still can't shake what happened last year in L.A. The Saints, with a full defense, a healthy defense, went to L.A., and Matt Stafford threw for 330 yards. That game was 30-7, and the Saints scored 2 touchdowns inside the final 6 minutes when they got run. I mean, that was the quintessential game that defines the Emperor of Empty Yards. That is a quintessential game that defines the Emperor of Empty Yards. Off with your head for missing the drop. To the cave of dungeon, the cave of...
The pit of misery?
Pit of misery!
There it is.
Dilly dilly, the pit of misery. There it is. Thank you. Bud Light, the pit of misery. Dilly dilly. They should bring back the dilly dilly guy.
It was a good ad.
That was a good ad. The dilly dilly guy was good. I do like the new guy, the Shane Hujimaflaji. Shane Gillis.
Shane Gillis?
Shane Gillis. He's good too, yeah. We're talking about like spilling the beans. You got tell me the truth together, Bud Light.
Yeah.
It's really good. Where were we? Oh, Rams. Saints defense. Right? Oh, Emperor of Empty Yards. Yes. So Derek Carr threw for a whole bunch of yards late. You're going to 30 years from now, they'll look at that box score. Man, close loss in LA, and Derek Carr threw for a bunch of yards. No, he didn't. They got curb stomped, and then when the game was over and the Rams were like, taking the tape off their knees and everything like that, the Saints scored 2 late touchdowns because that's what Derek Carr is. Darren Rizzi was asked about last year's game against the Rams to prepare for this one.
Gosh, I went back and watched that game recently, and I probably wanted to forget about it a little bit. And I think the defense maybe takes a little bit too much of a beating from that game. Offensively last year, we had the ball at the plus 31, the plus 34, the plus 39, and the plus 42, and got 0 points. And so that game's completely different had we converted. The game with 1:20 to go in the first half is 10-7. And that's when I think the wheels kind of came off a little bit there. So there were some of those second half plays. They had an explosive on the first play of the second half, so we got to limit those. We certainly can't turn the ball over. But overall, I don't think we played a great game as a team.
At a baby, I mean, didn't he just call out Derek Carr without calling out Derek Carr right there? But it's still Matthew Stafford. It's still Puka Nacua. It's still Cooper Kupp. We'll see if Demarcus Robinson plays in this game midweek. That's still uncertain after his arrest. It's still Kyron Williams. I mean, this is just not a good matchup for the Saints defense. The Saints defense, which continues to be one of the worst in the NFL. So, man, if the Saints were healthy on the offensive line, I might feel differently about it. But I just don't think the Saints are getting stops, and I don't know that this offense gets going, even coming off the bye, even at home. If you're going to tell me they're limited on the offensive line, and our old fade angle where a team that loses their starting center, you fade them, they fail to cover 80% of the time the week they lose their starting center. So if McCoy does in fact not play, massive disadvantage for New Orleans. I think the Rams win at 30-20. I think it's a little humbling for New Orleans. I really don't think it's going to be that close. The line on this game, as I look at it now, is Rams 2.5. But I think this is probably one of those humbling games. Like you think back to, the 2 wins. You beat Atlanta in a game where Younghoe Koo missed 3 times, which he never does. And then, you beat the Browns where that was a close game where Hopkins missed twice, actually 3 times, considering 1 missed and he got a second shot at it, missed it from 5 yards closer even. And then, that was a tie ball game in the fourth quarter, and then the Saints outscored them 21-0 down the stretch, which is awesome. You get a ton of credit for finishing strong. I just don't know that that this team is that good and has that much left in them. So you could certainly win at the Giants. The Commanders aren't playing great of late, and you get that one at home. You got to go to the Packers, which is going to be tough. The Raiders are pretty miserable. You get that one in New Orleans, but I think that's probably the extent of the winning for New Orleans. I think you could maybe win at the Giants and beat the Raiders at home, but I don't think they get the Rams this weekend. Give me the Rams 30-20 over the Saints. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.